All right, 5:30 having arrived, we are going to call the Public Works, Properties and Sustainability Committee to order. It is 5:30. We have a quorum. Agenda was properly posted, so we will start with the public appearances. It's a public opportunity to speak. We will start with the people who have handed in a wish to speak form. If you want to speak and you haven't filled it out, you can do that. Otherwise, we can ask for more people at the end, and we will go to people online after the people in the room are finished. So first, we've got Steve G. Come on up. And when you can come on up to the podium, and then you just got to hit the button that's on the right. It looks like a little person yelling. It's on the front on the right. Yep, there you go.
Excellent. Thank you. I did also bring a few handouts that are between Lisa and Jim there related to my topic. First off, thank you for having me today. My name is Steve Gridanis. I have been a resident on Landmark Drive for 12 and a half years and wanted to call to the committee's attention the traffic situation on Landmark Drive. And right now there is not currently stop sign on Landmark Drive in Michelle, nor are there stop signs to the north of there on, I was blank on the road name. Apologies. Limestone Pass, and at School Road and Landmark Drive, there is currently only 2 stop signs. It is not a 4-way intersection. And as a result of the commercial businesses that have been built north of the residential neighborhood, the current traffic pattern recommends that all southbound traffic from those businesses does cut through the residential neighborhood on Landmark Drive. As indicated on the maps there, I looked up directions from Culver's to the Village Hall as well as from Duncan to the Village Hall, and both those are unmodified. The first result indicate that you should cut through the residential neighborhood, and many people do choose to do that. Additionally, northbound traffic does tend to also cut through the neighborhood. When the traffic light is red at School Road and N, a lot of people will turn right on that red, turn on School Road, and then since there is no stop sign going on to Landmark, they will turn north on Landmark and cut through there as well. So as a result, there has been a significant increase in traffic over the years. I raised this issue several years back prior to the addition of Duncan, Grand Appliance, and others. At the time, there was actually a stop sign in one of the 2 directions at Michelle, and the decision was made to remove that stop sign to actually improve traffic flow on Landmark Drive at that time. So I respectfully request a additional traffic study and reconsideration of Landmark Drive. Excuse me. My recommendation would be to block Landmark Drive completely off from the commercial businesses in that area, to restrict the traffic to Landmark Drive residents only. Alternatively, I would like to see additional stop signs, speed bumps, something implemented so that at least the GPS directions recommend not taking the shortcut through the residential neighborhood. As you can see on the map, it is longer to go north to Gaston, go to the traffic light, and then turn south. People are not currently doing that. So I request an investigation into that situation, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just as a reminder, it's public opportunity to speak. We can't go back and forth just because of open meetings laws. So
I understand.
we may have questions, but we unfortunately can't ask them. So
I'm happy to address questions after the meeting
okay,
as
perfect.
appropriate.
Thank you. Next, we have Beth Kay.
Hello, my name is Beth Kucher. I currently live at 404 Melissa Lane, about 2 blocks away from where the incident happened on April 28th, on the intersection of Michelle and Landmark. And while I'm not here to discuss that event, I think that event brought a big issue, or I guess a big concern that I've had for quite some time with our neighborhood in the speeding issues that we have, as well as other traffic violations like running through stop signs. So a day after the incident that happened on April 28th, I started an online petition to reinstate the stop sign that was currently at Landmark and Michelle Lane. Currently, they only have, they removed the one, so there's no longer that one there. And what I've noticed is people can go very quickly through that area, whereas before that stop sign would really slow people down. And while I'm not here today to say that because of that stop sign, you know, the events that happened on April 28th would or would not have happened or occurred, I think it really brings the attention to, we need to talk about how we can create safer streets for our kids, for ourselves. We need to talk about not only reinstating that stop sign, but talking about what other ways we can have safer streets. Is that more stop signs? Is that speed bumps? Is that increased patrolling? I know that there has been a grant with our police officers being able to patrol a little bit more. I don't have all the answers, but I do encourage us to have more conversations about this, because there have been many times in the last year that I've lived on Melissa Lane where my children have been in danger because people have rolled through stop signs and sped through my neighborhoods. I have talked with not only the people that are building the homes in my area, but I have also talked with the police about this. So I would encourage us to have more conversations about this, and at very minimum have that reinstated, that stop sign, as the beginning. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to say anything? Anyone online that would like to say anything? All right, then we will move to item 4, discuss and consider the minutes from the Public Works Properties and Sustainability Committee meeting of April 9th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Otherwise, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain? Okay, 2 abstentions. Okay. Then we will move to number 5, unfinished business. Start with update on Clark Street, no parking.
So after the last Public Works meeting, we had determined to mark it as no parking for, it was kind of that in-between period. We had a temporary no parking from Village Board because of some events at Bakken Park, and then it came to this committee for recommendation to add no parking along the north side of Clark Street due to the limited traffic that you're able to get through for two-way, specifically emergency vehicles. It then went to Village Board. Village Board has approved the no parking. We are currently working on getting signs to fully implement that after the temporary no parking is no longer valid. There was some concerns that had wanted to be followed up regarding parking in the area. A lot of people did end up parking on Vilas where there is indicated no parking, from understanding from both our police chief as well as when he discussed with the town, there was an increase in ticket violations. However, it is the rugby area does not have its own parking lot, so when they do rugby events, they are required to rent out the shelter, so that does give less opportunity there, but there is parking at Bakken Park, there's parking by the pickleball courts, and then moreover at Fireman's Festival. And just as events happen, we do have some overlap of people, but something that we are currently continuing to monitor. Any questions for me?
Just an observation. So at the Lions car event, there's a rugby game going on, and people were not just parked on Vilas, but were parking on the grass, like on the side by the park. I mean, they were parked everywhere. So just an observation. It's beyond Vilas. They were kind of parking wherever they could find space.
Okay,
So,
good to know.
yeah.
I'll let staff know as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so Fireman's Park and the pickleball courts, were they full parking wise?
To my understanding, yes, but I also don't know if it was for pickleballers or if it was for the event as well, because we do have a large pickleball presence in the village.
Right.
So we have ample parking for the park and the events that happen during the week. It's when we have overlapping events that restrict that aspect, and it's something that both us and parks and if staff have kind of talked about. Do we try to coordinate a little better with events that happen in Bakken Park as well as rugby? Something me and Sean have kind of
Right. It's
gone
the
back and forth.
It's the rugby games that push it over the top.
Rugby
right.
has grown significantly
Right.
since the facility was first built.
So is there any special temporary parking that we could do for the rugby games? I think the status quo of no parking is good, but when we know these events are happening, we know that we're gonna have a lot of people, we should
think-
have some plan, I think, to
I think the
accommodate
paradox there is that the only time it's an issue is when there is a big event, because that's when they park on that side
Right.
and make the streets smaller. So it's kind of a hard,
And during those few moments is when we're concerned that it restricts traffic.
Correct.
But then, having them park on the grass and everywhere on Vilas is probably even more dangerous,
Yeah, I
arguably.
mean-
So that's like,
and I'm kind of concerned too that they'll park on Progress and then just try to walk around or through and then might become a liability issue, but the chief said that the temporary parking worked okay. I don't know how it worked last weekend, but besides parking on the grass.
Progress was also full because Downdrins was having a large event. So, I mean, it was,
Right.
it was just everything, people everywhere. So, yeah.
There's very few times where we have like 3 special events all happening on one day. That all just from my knowledge. And we aren't, and Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we don't always know when rugby events happen, correct? They don't fill out a special permit?
That is correct. If it's on their property and they're not asking for village facilities, then it's not a special event. Same with Downdrins. There was not a special event permit for either of those events, only for the Lions Club.
Thanks.
I guess, yeah, just if we could have over the summer, if it becomes a reoccurring problem, I
Absolutely.
think we should readdress it.
Yep, absolutely.
Any other discussion or questions for Kyla? Otherwise, we will move to 5B, discuss traffic calming for long-term planning. So I kind of just wanted to put this on here to sort of put out a call, kind of like the people who are here tonight. If you have any ideas for ways to slow vehicles down in the village, to let us know, just so that we can try to be proactive and not have to react to something that happens, so we can try to address the issues beforehand. It's just kind of an open discussion if anybody has any thoughts or anything. I'll leave it up to you guys first. I do have some questions that were brought up by those people, but I'll see if anybody else has anything to say first.
So Damascus Trail, that had speed bumps at one point, or speed bumps were put in, and then they were removed. Do you know the story behind that?
Is that south of,
Right across from the school, the middle school,
they had some across from the school?
I believe so.
Those I know they had temporary ones in the town portion of Damascus that they take out in the winter for plowing.
I thought we had across from CVS. I thought there were speed bumps put in, but then the last time I ran through there, they
I'm not
weren't
sure.
in there. So I just wasn't sure. I mean, speed bumps work, but people also are very annoyed by them, and even the residents. So I just don't know.
Yeah, we've
That was
had,
my
there
question.
have been some
yeah.
people from the neighborhood there that want something to happen because they don't like the construction traffic that comes through. I think a speed bump could be good. I know that the Public Works Department is not a fan of speed bumps just because they can wreck the plows.
That's true.
So to add on to speed bumps, it's not just the plows.
Oh, I know.
Obviously, the plows are very important, but speed bumps do also but there also is the aspect of when cars go over them. If you have a low-profile car, there's additional noise for the homeowners around the speed bumps. If people have low-profile cars or have cars in general, depending on the speed bump, they can also hit the speed bump. They can start saying, you're ruining my vehicle. There's a lot of pros and cons to speed bumps. I'm not going to listen to them all, but just also something to keep in mind. It's not just the plows.
I do think that if they're going the appropriate speed, I don't know if that's necessarily an issue for their car. Sorry, can you get your microphone?
Well, everybody's seen the larger speed bumps that have the kind of upslope platform and then downslope. I mean, as a biker, those are great.
Yeah.
And even over a car, as long as you're not going over the speed limit, they're easier to go over. They're just not as jarring. I don't know if we've had ever, I don't think they've ever been in the village, but I see them in Madison all the time, all over Madison.
Do you know, I don't know what to call those, a speed
I don't
hump
know either.
maybe, but do you know how those
like
affect
ramps.
plows? Or
Yeah.
is any kind of grade above flat negatively gonna affect plows?
I mean, they all have it all has an impact to it. But those are more what I've called them, and Josh, our village engineer, is on as well, more of like a tabletop.
Yeah.
Is kind of what that is, where it
Yeah.
kind of slows down. A lot of times you see those tabletops more at pedestrian crossings.
Okay.
Because it flattens out to allow the pedestrians to cross over there, because you
Yeah.
have to have an ADA access for that. So
Oh.
that's where you typically see those pedestrians is
We've
at.
got a bunch of them on Oak Ridge,
Okay.
on the east side.
I'll have to check
heading-
that out.
Heading to
It's-
Jennifer. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I think they work really well. If you go over them at 25, they're fine. You go
Mhm.
over them faster and they'll launch you.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So one of the things.
I
We're
would-
talking speed humps versus speed bumps. So speed humps, the new is the new term. City of
Hump, okay.
Madison has a detail for speed humps. Monona has a bunch of them that we installed over in Monona. They don't have to be at crosswalks, you know, they are controlled for speed, but Kyla's right. They are noisy. That's the one complaint we get from a lot of residents when they're out there is it may not wreck the cars but you always are hearing the car kind of go over them. Even at speed, you know, you always kind of hear that hump, you know, you hear that the shocks kind of give and the car kind of go over that, almost like your tires are kind of hitting something, you know, as they go up and over. So speed hump is much easier on the plows too. So City of Madison exclusively does speed hump now, and they have a pretty good detail on their website on how to build them.
So just a piece of history on the Damascus Trail. So the town put those in, and what they found was that people were driving around them. So it made it even more dangerous going down Damascus. So that's why, I believe, if I'm correct, that's why they were removed. So Kyla, just a kind of a question. So I know you and I have talked offline about the traffic at the intersection of N and Commerce Parkway, and probably needing to do kind of some studies or do some reconfiguration. Is it possible to include that entire neighborhood into that because of the issues with Landmark Drive? And I'll just speak from experience. I'm one of those people that goes to Culver's and then cuts down Landmark and goes to School Road to go home. So I know the traffic's there. So can we broaden the scope to that neighborhood?
It's definitely something that we can look into as an overall traffic study, if not only coming out of our public works, but if it's something that we're interested at, like our large intersections, to do kind of a traffic study, we can put it in as a potential project for kind of a CIP that would then be voted on for village board. It's not something that we have the funds to just have Strand go ahead and do
know how
out of our
much-
operation budget.
Do you know how
but-
much a study like that would cost?
Josh, do you have a ballpark of what a traffic study would cost?
Depends on what we're doing. Are we talking about stop signs? I heard N in Commerce Park, which is pretty big compared to maybe some of these more smaller local things.
Be a combination,
Yeah,
or like that whole area. And you don't
you'd
have to
have to
put
get-
on
you'd
the
have to get
spot. That's
counts.
okay.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to get counts and
Yep.
and then kind of go through the whole study period. So, you know, there was a conversation about stop signs, and this is talked about in many communities on putting stop signs in and where and how and when, and sometimes they just get put in places all over a community to try to control speed. One of the residents was up earlier and said several times that a bunch of people are running stop signs. Well, that's probably because of the warrants of stop signs weren't met when they were installed. So the MUTCD, which is kind of a national guidance, lays out 5 warrants for stop signs. So there's kind of a warrant list that you go through and you study to see if a stop sign is warranted at a location. So that's kind of what you're talking about, Kyla, is if you're going to study it, you're going to study it based on those warrants and then come back. You'd have to get some traffic counts. You'd have to look like at crash history. I can't probably give you a number. We'd have to kind of noodle on it a little bit, but it's something you should probably budget for, if you're going to do it.
Absolutely.
I guess my thought on that is a traffic study is probably going to cost a lot of money and it's going to take a lot of time. And if we're just looking at Michelle and Landmark, putting in 2 stop signs is cheap and easy. And I mean, worst case scenario, every single car blows those stop signs, and it's the same exact way we have it now. But some people might stop at those stop signs, and it's going to be safer.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
but my comment on that is your worst case scenario of people blowing stop signs is beyond a safety hazard. We're trying to make things safer here, not create an issue. I think that our best bet is to, especially in a small intersections like this, we need a recommendation from the police chief and from our village engineer as to what the right solution is in these applications. My suggestion is we come up with a list of areas we'd like to look at, and we have them look at those areas, and we reconvene to discuss it once we have more data on these intersections.
Sure.
Just for additional awareness, and I had this in my written public comments, that 3-way intersection is also a bus stop for elementary school children. Many children need to cross that intersection daily. Thank you.
I guess sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Well, I was just going to add, just following up on my comments about the traffic at N and Commerce Parkway, if we were to close traffic on Landmark, commercial traffic, that's going to put more pressure on that intersection. So that's why I kind of suggested grouping those 2 things together.
Yep, and I know, so kind of to reel this whole back in, kind of the point of the agenda item is kind of discuss our long-term planning. I would love to just put speed bumps in whenever we want, but it would also have to be the fact that, are we replacing the street? Is the street warranted for reconstruction? Kind of a lot of different applicants. So it's kind of more of a, what are our things that we're looking for that we'd like to look to implement in long-term planning as I'm putting together the capital improvements plan for budget time. Regarding cutting off Landmark and the future Matt Pass, we do have dead ends in the village. The reasons we have dead ends are actually because we abut town properties. It's not because we don't want to connect the streets between the village. EMS, PD, staff, everybody would rather, it's a safety issue when we do have dead ends and we don't have that connectivity, because PD's one area and they need to get to the other area quick and there's a dead end, it takes much longer for them to go around, and it can create further problematic for both fire, EMS, and PD.
So as far as getting input from police and engineering, I think that's useful, but it's going to take more time. And we've heard from residents who are there every single day, and they've brought up issues. I think traffic calming is an important thing, and I don't want it to get bogged down in bureaucracy and have it take a year or 2 to put up a stop sign that costs a couple $100. I'd rather just do it. Just do it. That being said, I'll open it to other discussion. Josh, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just a quick question. Were you part of when they took it down? Were you part of this committee when the stop sign came down?
No, I believe that was 2019. So
I was.
No, it was before that. It was after that. It was like
No,
a year or 2 ago.
yeah,
Because
it was
JJ was here and so was
2020,
I.
it was 2021.
Oh, no, I was not.
Yeah. So from what I recall is, I think there was, I don't know, Mike, you were probably part of that too, is there was a handful of stop signs that they were getting complaints that people wanted them down. So it was the reverse of this, right? It was the reverse scenario of what we're seeing now. And a lot of them were at locations like this one that was confusing because you had 2 stops. The main thoroughfare had a stop on one going north and no stop going south. And people were just blowing the stop sign all the time going north, if I recall, in the state from conversations with JJ. And nobody was paying attention to it. They were just rolling through it, or they were just going right through it. So at that point, he looked into it. We talked about it a little bit, and that location plus a couple others were taken out because of comments that the public continued to make at those locations. So that is what I recall. If you were to put something back, all I'm going to suggest tonight is I would not put back just the 1 stop sign, because that is confusing to people.
Yeah,
So
I think we'd have to.
I think still, and I think you were going to get to that still. That. Chris.
Yeah, I think we would have to do 2 of them just to have it be an always stop. But I had a couple other questions. Are What are the requirements for putting up signs that are like no trucks over X amount of pounds?
Typically,
This-
that has to go through Lisa, would that go through us, PD, and village board? I don't have enough. I would have to look into that on how that process works for truck signs.
Okay. It sounds like some of the issue is just some of the commercial people coming through that area. And I don't know how much their trucks weigh. They could be less than 4 tons or whatever, which is what I saw on Bonnie. But do you know why there is a no left turn out of Limestone?
No
Why-
left
why that
turn out of
decision was-
Limestone.
Going west out of Limestone to end, there's no left.
Is it like I feel like if you turn right out of Dunkin' Donuts, you can only turn right at on the
Onto
end?
Limestone?
Yeah, there's
Because there's
never
not a stop
left.
sign. There's not a stop light there.
Yeah,
And it's
you
a
need a
large
left
county
signal.
highway.
And it's a large county highway. It's the
Okay.
same reason when you're on the west side, you can only go southbound. You can't go northbound there.
Okay.
And you can't cross at Limestone.
It's much safer. It's much safer to do it that way than to allow people to try to cross all
Yeah,
that traffic to
yeah,
make a
I
left
just-
turn. Yeah.
I just wasn't sure why that was like that. Sorry, I'm just kind of bouncing around to different intersections.
Chris, can I say so? So
Yeah.
as much as I do maybe want to put a stop sign back, I think I'd be forward to waiting for a study because right now we don't know how much traffic is going through there, and we put a stop sign in, and we don't know how much we've actually affected it. So I would love to have a study to know what's the current traffic pattern and see how much we affect it. Because part of it is one is speeding through there, but the other one is actually just general amount of cars, and that's a bigger issue, right?
Sure.
And I think if we reduce the number of cars, it'd be beneficial. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I think
And-
that's fair. I think the flip side of that is if there's stop signs, it might be more irritating to certain businesses. They might choose another route. But then again, that's something that you might find from a study.
And I think if that promotes a different route, taking the Limestone at least, going northbound, I'm absolutely for that. I just don't know how we would know that, right, without the data to
Yeah.
back it up.
And just for clarification on my previous comment, I wasn't insinuating that we need a full traffic study at every one of these instances. What I would like to do is provide 1, 2, 3 areas that we come out of tonight that we would at least like a comment from engineering and the police chief that we can talk at the next meeting. I'm fine with us making a decision without a complete traffic study for smaller local stop signs, but I would at least like a comment specific to an intersection or a location from those professionals who deal in this day in and day out to this committee.
Yeah,
And maybe we don't have to do a full study. I mean, maybe you guys are gonna say, well, we wanna look at stop signs and Michelle and Landmark and Limestone and Landmark. We wanna make both those always stops because then that will deter people from going south and going to School Road. I personally, right now, don't think that's gonna make a difference. But I would like to talk to some of our traffic engineers. People don't wanna go, they just tend not to wanna backtrack, even if they have to go through a couple stop signs on a local street. Then to backtrack and go up to Commerce and Gaston to turn south and go south. They're gonna go down to school. I mean, it's a grid network. That's how grid networks work. I mean, Landmark's the adjacent street that goes north-south next to N. It's gonna get more of that traffic north and south, depending on which direction you're going. It's just the way the street grid's set up.
So Josh, maybe for next month, could you take a look at those intersections and think about
Yeah,
stop signs, speed
Yep.
bumps, and maybe even like a
Yep.
mini traffic circle?
yep, yeah, man. All those I think will help slow traffic. And we can, let's talk about that some more. I just wanna caution everybody that it's gonna be hard for us to change something and Google not to say, here's the quickest route, because I still think it's gonna show that same
Yeah.
route. Yeah, I really do.
Okay.
Could we add raised intersections as
Yeah,
well as maybe
raised
road?
crosswalks? Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe even narrowing of streets into that kind of study, if you will.
And maybe not even necessarily using concrete to do it. We could always just try with paint and stuff too.
Yep.
And see if that
Put
helps.
some
out.
temporary stuff up, temporary bollards or something up
Yeah.
to try to see what it's like. And you might have to remove them when it's snow season, but you try something in the summer.
Yeah.
You could do some things like that too. Yeah.
Okay, well, we can come, and I should note that this is not limited, this discussion item is not limited to just that area. If you have any other intersections anywhere in the village that you think needs help, just let us know, and we can look into it. But we can come back to that next month. Any other discussion on this item? Otherwise, we will move to engineer's report.
Oh, I'm still up. Okay. Just a little bit of what's going on in the village. First, kind of developer projects. We always have West Lawn going on in the next kind of phase of that this spring and this summer. Quarry Ridge contractors restarted the street work. They anticipate, getting a majority of that done actually this month into early June. So a lot of that street work on that last phase of Quarry Ridge will be completed here early summer. The Amazon facility contractor is done with the majority of all the utilities out there. And the TIA, actually, we just kind of found out today that county and state are close on approving the TIA for the road improvements on N and TT. So the next thing will be for their engineers to put together full plans of what those improvements are going to look like to both TT and those roundabouts on the north end there.
Can I stop real quick? That, again, the
Yep.
plan is to extend the bike path along that. That's still part of the discussion?
Along which side?
Along
Sorry.
TT to the county park?
No, that's not part of the Amazon plan.
Different project.
No, Amazon isn't
What?
required to do that.
Amazon isn't on the east side of N.
It's the water main improvement,
That's the
right?
water main.
And that's not
improvement.
this?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not this.
Sorry,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry, yeah, that is a separate thing, and that I think that will be kind of determined as we get into that project. There's also a kind of a county function with that too, and maybe some funding we could go after, and maybe get the county to actually kind of contribute. So we're working with Kyla and staff to kind of figure out when's the appropriate time to do that piece of it. But yeah, that will be separate. They will have multi-use paths that front N and TT, but over on their side of the development. Where was that? Heyday would like to start work here soon. They were talking about construction to start in June. It will start with kind of site grading and the utility installation out there at Heyday, and then they'll work through the summer on developing their site. There's been a little bit of talk about Coyle Highlands South and the farm development. So that would be south of Cottage Grove Road there, next to the CVS, and then it would go all the way down to kind of Vilas. Right now we're working with Kyla and also the Utility Commission to start thinking about how we're going to plan that interceptor through there, and both developers are talking about future development plans. And then on the public works side, there's the 2025 streets project and pedestrian improvements. There's the construction, I think, on the street stuff is going pretty quick. Breezy's doing a really good job. A lot of the concrete work is done. They're going to start paving. They'd like to pulverize and get the remainder of a lot of that done here by the end of the month. So their schedule's moving pretty good. Once they get that done, they were going to move over to Taylor and Main and then the bike path along Cottage Grove Road. That bike path along Cottage Grove Road, we're also waiting, and you probably see there's some utilities getting relocated on the poles there. Power's getting pulled off, and we're working with telecommunications to try to get their stuff buried too. So that's kind of hinging on when they could start over there on that construction once that stuff's all moved.
Josh, do you know when do you know when Bonnie Road's gonna be done?
Bonnie Road was going to be done around the same time the other streets are done. I don't have a specific time on it. Kyla, you don't know. They didn't give a specific time at the last meeting on Bonnie Road, did they? I think they're shooting for mostly the end of May for most of the street work.
Kyla's mic is apparently not working. That's interesting.
Why do you ask, Chris? Is there something
I just
going
asked
on?
because the Hot to Trot usually goes through there. I know most of the sidewalks are done, so we could just point to the sidewalks, but we might be having some malfunctions on.
And once they move to the street, the sidewalks are done and they pulverize, they're going to pave right behind it. So it will be pretty quick at that point, Chris.
That was weird. I don't know what happened. Lisa can fix it though. We can share.
Josh, can you just repeat that last bit you said because I was
Oh,
distracted?
I'm sorry. Yeah, so I believe they're gonna try to have everything done right near the end of May.
Okay.
Now that most of the concrete work's done, it's gonna go fast. They're gonna pulverize, regrade, and they're gonna pave right behind it. So that whole process will go pretty quick. You know, it might be a week and a half and all of a sudden, boom, it's, you know,
Okay.
it's done after they start to pulverize, so.
Hot to Trot's not till Father's Day weekend, so that should be fine.
As of today,
I think
there's, I'm going to interrupt you, Josh. I have an updated
Yeah, go.
schedule. As of today, their plan was to pulverize next Tuesday with asphalt paving the following Tuesday after Memorial Day. So they'll start on Heather and then they'll move over to Bonnie. So it's about a 2-week process. So they should be
Okay.
done plenty of time before Tot to Trot.
Awesome. Thank
Hot
you.
to Trot.
Yeah. So right near the end of the month, right, Tyler, might run a little bit into June, but they're still on schedule for end of the month.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Josh? Otherwise, we'll move to number 7, Director's Report.
So included in your packet tonight was a variety of different items, kind of a couple updates on things that have been happening in the last month. We had our e-waste event on April 26th, which was extremely successful. We filled almost 2 semis full of e-waste from the 8 to 12 a.m. time slot that the village had to come through. There's a breakdown of the tonnage and the weights of all the material that was collected in the memo. I'm not going to read all those numbers to you, but there was a lot of e-waste. Some more information will be forthcoming in the next couple months to discuss if the event went well, if we kind of more budgetary process for what we're going to look for 2026, as this was the only e-waste event that was planned for 2025 with Pelletary. There's also an equipment and fleet update that shows the budget that was approved, some reallocations, and some new budget numbers, still showing the same budgetaries for our fleet and our equipment. One thing you will notice is that we have decided not to move forward with a grapple bucket for the loader. So at the time that this was approved, this was before me and before my new street superintendent, and we've looked at operations, and the reason for the grapple bucket from our understanding previously was so we had 2 operations for if there was a tree, fallen tree, or for brush, and we're able to collect brush as staff very efficiently with our grapple bucket that we have, that we didn't need a replacement one. And some of the other reallocations you'll see is based on having uplifting some of the snow plows to be able to use more brine, which we have the brine tank that was purchased at the end of 2024. Additionally, we have a snow and ice control program that was last updated in October of 2011. Something that me and my street superintendent are taking a look at that I hope to bring to you guys in the upcoming months for your review and consideration, passing on to village board. And then as an FYI, the Dane County is replacing the county highway bridge over Door Creek just south of the village limits. There is a project information meeting that is today from 5:30 to 7:30. I went at 4:30 as they had invited elected officials to come beforehand. I'd highly recommend, if you're interested and you have time tonight, to stop by. If you're interested on more information, you can find it on the website, and they also are taking public comments if there's any concerns that you may have. It is currently planned to that bridge to be out for 2 to 3 months during construction in 2027. And then lastly, some training. Staff attended CPR and AED training in April with Deer Grove EMS. We did it over 2 days, and I attended the APWA, the American Public Works Spring Conference up in Stevens Point this last about a week and a half ago, and met some other public works directors and got some good training opportunities on there. And then there was one other update that I wanted to provide that wasn't in the report regarding the multi-use path on Cottage Grove Road. We have looked into the green paint. We are able to do green paint internally on the driveways, so that's something that will come after the project has been completed to see what that looks like, but it's something that we're able to do in-house.
Nice.
Let me know if there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions or comments or concerns for Kyla? All right, I don't see any, so we will move to number 8, future agenda items. We can talk more traffic calming next month. Anybody else have anything for next month's agenda? Otherwise, we'll go to number 9.
I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, Larry, every time. Opposed? And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.